What is up, everybody? I am your host, RJ Starcevic. Welcome back to Off the Record. Pleased to welcome my co-host Celia with me as well. And our guest this weekend is Mason Diaz. Mason Diaz, you run in the Cars Tour, you run late models, you run some ARCA races, and I saw you ran a dirt race a few months ago. We can talk about that a little bit later. But Mason, pleased to be able to talk to you again. How are you?
Good. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm coming off a busy weekend. Just leaving. Where were we? Motor Mile.
Wow.
With the Cars Tour this weekend. Getting ready for what tomorrow is going to start. This is North Wilksboro, which is going to be interesting since it's a racetrack that we've never been to before. No one's really been there before. I mean, it's been shut down for years, so it's exciting to get back to a racetrack that's been shut down for forever.
Yeah, for sure. And you in the Cars Tour, I think you're sitting seventh in the standings right now. You've had a pretty solid season. I know you got a pole earlier in the year. Like the one qualifying session I watched this year, you won the pole. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, but I feel like you've had a solid season. How have you looked at it from your eyes as far as the speed? And are you optimistic about North Wilkesboro?
It's been really up and down. We started off the season, it wasn't great. Starting at Caraway, wrecking out early, and then just parts failures. I've had 2 power steering pumps go bad this year, and clutches, and just tons of parts failures, which you can't really avoid, sadly. But we just got back from Motor Mile, and I broke a starter. Another power steering pump for my second one this year was locking up on me. That's why we ended up parking it. It's been very up and down. We've been showing speed here recently. Ever since really after Greenville, we've been showing a lot of speed. So that's really good. And just starting to keep improving, finishing races, and just trying to improve ourselves.
Is there kind of like a nervous energy being like the first group back at North Wilkesboro to like test it out, or are you like more excited than anything?
It's just another race. Move on just to another race. We're not the first ones there. I watched the modified races. We watched a whole bunch of people. Limited's practice tonight, so we know some people going there, try to get an idea of what we need for tomorrow. It's not really nervous feeling. It's just another racetrack we've never been to before. Which Cars Tour, we go to different racetracks every week. We do go to a couple racetracks that are doubles throughout the year, like Caraway's a double, Ace is a double, and there's a couple more. So I mean, it's no different than traveling each weekend. So just put another racetrack on there, and we'll go there and figure it out.
Yeah, it's definitely crept up on me being in the middle of the week. I almost forgot because I've been doing some stuff for the Cars Tour, and I almost forgot. It's right in the middle of the week. It's coming up here on what is it? Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
Yes, Tuesday, Wednesday. So today's open practice for limiteds from 4 to 7, and then we roll in tomorrow at 10:30. Which I don't know how much practice we get. We might get probably a couple hours, most likely. Normally we get 2-3 hours, so we'll probably get somewhere around there, and then we qualify tomorrow night.
Yeah, and you've obviously, since it's been shut down for so long, you don't have any experience, and a lot of the drivers there, besides maybe Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the field, have probably had experience at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, it's really cool for racetracks to come back. Definitely, the whole revival process is cool. I'm happy to see new racetracks or old racetracks coming back to life, and new racetracks happening and showing that the sport's growing. But there's no connection to me to it. I wasn't even born before the last race even ran. So I think the last race was ran 96, somewhere around there. So I was born 2000. So there's really no connection to me to the racetrack, but it's definitely a cool feeling to go back to know. And there's a lot of history there, and hopefully that it's here to stay.
Yeah, for sure. And you're gonna want to get a lot of practice laps around there. All right.
Yes, and hopefully we load off the trailer pretty good, and then we don't really have to practice too much. But unlike it's a guessing game for everyone, you can put your best knowledge in hand to go there, but at the end of the day, you're still kind of guessing.
Yeah, pretty much. And have you learned anything from like watching any of the other series that have been on the track kind of this month?
Yeah, after Motor Mile finished, I think we're already saving tires for it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tire saving race. It's kind of like Goodyear we've been to this year. It reminds me a lot of what Myrtle Beach is, Southern National, Hickory before they put the sealant down this year. Just start saving tires now because you're going to need them all.
For sure. Yeah. It's going to be a endurance type of race. I'm looking forward to watching it, especially the 2 days that you guys are there. And as far as like the Cars Tour season this year, for people that don't know too much about the Cars Tour and what it is, and what you guys do on kind of a week-to-week basis, kind of like, is there a way you can explain it, kind of summarize what the Cars Tour at least has meant to you and your team?
It's just a touring series, really. when you run race late model stocks, you have two options. You can go the NASCAR way, which is running like Sobo for weekly series, and Dominion, you do weekly series racing, versus Car Store, which is not NASCAR sanctioned. And you can show up to these different racetracks with knowing the same people are going each week. Being a part of Touring 12 shows that at least these 12 cars are going to be there. So you're racing the same people week in, week out. And you fight for a points championship differently versus the whole entire national NASCAR points. It's just a different kind of style of racing. It's not racing the same racetrack each week versus, that's what local stuff is. You're on the same racetrack each week and dial yourself in. That's why we see, like, when we went to Motor Mile this past weekend, Looney was really fast. He unfortunately got beat for himself, but when you show up at local racetracks, the locals really do show up, and that's a good thing. But it's just when we show up, it's more of the best of the best are coming each week, week in, week out. You know who's running and who's going to be challenging each week.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how like different the fans are, because they have like a personal stake in it. Like, this is their home track. Like, do you see a lot of like fan turnout? Is there a lot of support?
Oh yeah, Motor Mile was completely Looney fans. Same with Franklin County earlier this year. I'm sure Sobo at the end of the year is going to be Lane. I'm sure he's probably going to run it. When the locals do show up, like Dominion, that was my home track, so I had a lot of people there locally. When you show up to your local racetrack, your home track, the fans definitely do recognize who's showing up and who they want to watch.
We'll go back here on Off the Record. Mason just mentioned racing at Dominion, your home track, and he obviously had a lot of people out back there. So I want to kind of take it back to when you started in racing. You started racing at Dominion Speedway, and obviously that being your home track, you had a lot of history there. So kind of take us back to when you began in motorsports, and how was that like?
Yeah, I didn't start at Dominion Raceway. Dominion Raceway was built, I think, in 2014, 2015. Now, old Dominion Speedway, which was like 10 minutes away from my house, I started there, which now it's shut down. It's a bunch of townhouses, sadly. It was a really cool racetrack. Started racing go-karts there in the infield, and then moved into Bandoleros. And then Dominion Raceway is the closest track to my home, but I wouldn't call it my home track. Southern National is my home track. But it's just the closest track to where I live. So a lot of people tend to come out and support me there. I don't really race that close to home often, so it's nice to see when everyone comes out and supports and enjoy themselves for a Saturday night race. But started racing bandos, like I said there, and then moved down to Star National racing pro late models and legends and late model stocks, and just continued up from there.
Yeah, so Southern National is a pretty fun track, isn't it? From what I've seen.
Yeah, it is. I have a lot of laps there, 2 track champions there, and it's a fun place. It's a different place. A lot of banking, kind of like a mini Bristol, like Lanier kind of. It's a fun place to drive.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a lot of fun. And for you, when you were starting kind of your racing career, say at least maybe the first year of you kind of just getting experience with racing and stuff like that, did you have any goals or like a mindset of where you wanted to be, kind of like where we are at right now?
Not when I initially started. No, there was really no goals. I ran pro late models for a while, and then slowly ran late model stocks in the NASCAR series. Back then there was learner permits, kind of like beginner licenses, rookie licenses, that you can only run a certain amount of races per year, so you can keep your rookie status for the following season. So we played that role. So 2015, I believe, or 2016, I did like 3 or 4 late model stock races, and just wanted to improve and just wanted to show myself as best I could. We just didn't want to throw me in and be like, okay, here's what's happening. So with doing that, just learning, testing, practicing everything we can do with those minimal amount of races, we went to next season focusing more on, okay, I actually was fortunate enough to get a track championship, rookie of the year in Florida and in NC. So it was just more of not rushing into it, just waiting till you're prepared. And then leading to now, there's goals this year we have. The goal is, every week you want to finish the best that you can. The main goal this past weekend was to showcase ourselves for speed, but also keep the car in one piece to be able to bring it to Wilkesboro,
Exactly. That's kind of a thing that teams like you guys have to do week to week, right? Like you race at a racetrack one week, and you guys could have a race next week or 2 weeks from there. But obviously if you have an incident or something like that, that kind of you guys got to work a little bit harder to get that car ready for the next few weeks, right?
Yeah, we were debating on which car to bring this weekend. My backup car is just about done, so it probably needs like another 2 days worth of work on it. But I mean, it could have been something doable if needed for this week. But leaving this weekend doesn't look terrible. Just need a little bit of body work and change the oils and all the above, but just maintenance stuff. So we're getting that car ready to go for this week versus the backup car.
Awesome. Yeah, I know a lot goes into that. Now I know we were talking about the beginning of your career, and I know in 2017 you made the one lone truck series, I think, start that you made
Yep.
In your career. You made it at Martinsville with the Brandonville team. And so how did that kind of come about? How the race go for you? Because I think you started like 9th in that race.
Yeah. Brandon built Motorsports. So Jerry Brown's actually a part owner in Star National with my father. So that's how that connection worked out. They went Xfinity racing, and we was like, well, we'll follow with them for a little bit. They did trucks, then moving up to Xfinity. So that's how that ride came about. And went there. We didn't practice that good. We were like 30th, just learned the car, and then qualifying came around, and that was back when they did the 3 segments in qualifying. You get everyone go out for 10 minutes or whatever, and then you move to the next round. I was sitting on the pole for forever and actually qualified second in the first stage. So then I got moved to the second round. Then I was moved to the third round. I think you're right. I think we qualified 9th or so.
Yeah.
Which was great. I mean, it turned like everyone upside down. It was really, really cool to see when they wouldn't let me out the car. I mean, there was like 5 minutes between each round. They wouldn't let me out of the car. They're like, just stay there, stay focused, look forward. They covered the mirrors up in the car so I wouldn't see the cameras and everything all around me, because that was the story of the race. So it was good. And then the race, we were running up front. We were running, top 10 majority of the night till we got a left front flat and had to pit. So it is what it is, but definitely was a cool experience.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I know. So that explains the connection between you and Brandonville, because you ended up making some Xfinity starts for them too, right?
Yes, I think around 4 with them. Richmond twice, Charlotte once, and Bristol once. Yeah, so 4. I think I have 7 starts or so in Xfinity. So yeah, I did 4 with them, I believe.
How'd you enjoy that in the Xfinity series? Because I'm an avid Xfinity series lover, so I love the racing week to week, and I know a lot of people in the garage. The Brandonville people are great. So how did you enjoy your time over there?
Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. It was learning curve. It was back when practice was allowed, so at least I had practice prior to. I did run a couple races in 2020 with Sam Hunt, which there was no practice. We went to Phoenix and I forget where else we went. Oh, Martinsville, which that was fun. Great group of guys there. They're both Brandonville, great group of people, and same with Sam Hunt Racing. So great group of people. This is who you surround yourself with. Great connections and just people that care about what they do for a living.
Yeah, for sure. And getting those experience on the shorter tracks on the schedule too, right? Like you said you ran Phoenix for Sam Hunt and Martinsville.
No, Martinsville then Phoenix, just because Phoenix is the closing out race for the year.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a fan of closing out the season? I don't know if you ever did like the closeout at Homestead.
No, I wasn't able to. I was thinking we were trying to, but it's about being approved for it, and I wasn't approved. When I ran my first truck race, I was approved for half miles, and then after that truck race, they approved me for 1.5 miles. So I was approved for trucks, but I wasn't quite approved yet for 1.5 miles for Xfinity for back then, or for trucks, really. So it was more a fact of, not being approved to go.
Yeah. Celia, are you a fan of the Phoenix or Homestead finale?
I really liked the setup of Homestead. I thought it was really nice, and I didn't really like Phoenix for now it's starting to grow on me though. So I'm looking forward to it.
The way that they changed the reason in the PJ1 the racetrack makes it better. Phoenix is a blast. I like the short tracks, but you can never go out in Homestead. I mean, Homestead, they run the fence, the bottoms, that everywhere on the racetrack you can. I think for the beginning, once they switched tracks, Homestead was still better, but now I think Phoenix is picking up the pace with how they prepare the racetrack. So I think either or. I mean, I'm sure that we would all love to be at Martinsville, but Martinsville's probably not the best showcase for what teams can do,
Yeah. I think Phoenix realized that they kind of got big shoes to fill as the closer. So they've kind of been stepping it up the past few years.
Yes, I think so
Put a lot
too.
of pressure on the racetrack.
That and the fact that, like, if it went to a different mile and a half other than Homestead, then the same teams are going to excel versus being to a short track like Homestead, the driver can come out in it. It's not just all equipment. Phoenix, the driver can come out in it versus just being on a big mile and a half and you know who's going to win. You know who's going to run strong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Same, two people win the stages and it's like a fight between them. Towards the end, it's like, all right, I don't need to watch this race. I know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Exactly.
So I think that aspect's nice through it.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. We'll be back with more here on Off the Record. And welcome back here on Off the Record. So the one time that I've been able to chat with you at the racetrack, Mason, well, the few times actually, I think I saw you at New Smyrna and then Daytona because you ran both races that weekend at the beginning of the year, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So how's your time been in ARCA? I mean, obviously you haven't run like, the full schedule, you haven't run a ton of races, but from time to time you do come to the ARCA series with the 44 crew and you do run a few races. You ran that Speed Weeks weekend. I can't remember how good or how great the weekend went as far as finishing wise, but kind of summarize how that weekend was like for you.
Yeah, it was moving out of ARCA full-time East last year. We parted way with the teams. And moved to this year. We partnered up with, ran a ride from Jeff LeFleur. Great guy. I mean, that guy works his tail off for whoever's in his cars, and appreciate everything he did. We went to Daytona first, correct? I forget which order we did. It might have been New Smyrna first.
New Smyrna on like a Tuesday.
Yeah, we went to New Smyrna first, and it wasn't that great. We missed the setup a little bit, and it was just a struggling night. But I think we still finished fourth. So it was okay. Wasn't what I normally go down, fighting for, at least top three, but it was still fun. We never gave up. The team never gave up with coming in for adjustments, all the above. So, and then we moved to Daytona, which fortunate how they do qualifying there is groups, and we got in a really good group. So I was able to qualify, I think fourth or second, or I forget. I think it was outside pole, which is really good. And then throughout the race, we overheated a little bit and lost some horsepower and some, from the engine, from the computer shutting it off. So came back to finish seventh after, I think it was Drew Dollar racing in with the Gibbs car or KBM car.
Yeah.
And he wrecked off the back straight.
Crashed.
Yeah. And I was able to pick up like 5-6 spots from that wreck. So came out to be in seventh place, I think.
Yeah, I think it was seventh. I was trying to double check here. I think it was right around there. And you mentioned running two. So you ran two full-time ARCA East series or ARCA East.
Yes,
series.
with Venerini in 2020, and then last year with Visconti.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did run for that 74.
Which Visconti was a half and half. It was all my father's equipment, and then just using some of his equipment as well. He had the motors, we had the cars. So it wasn't all Visconti stuff. The majority of it was mine.
Okay.
So.
Is ARCA, well, I'm sorry, is ARCA something that you can see yourself like getting back into later on in the future? Are you gonna stick to cars for now?
It depends. It's just expensive for what it is. That, and it's more of a growing series. More of, okay, you're going this series to go to this series. It's more of those transitional series. I don't see myself running full time for years in it. I would much rather do local stuff, whether that's Cars Tour or run late model, supers, all the above. I'd rather do that versus run ARCA full time. Kind of did my time in the series and tried to move forward, and it just didn't really work out. So we're gonna go back down now and focus really on the short track local stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kind of if you were to draw like a direct comparison or like the biggest difference between, say, running an ARCA at the short tracks, right? Like if you run the East, like running the full-time E season versus running the full-time Cars Tour season, like what do you think is the biggest difference between the two?
Teams, the equipment, the money being spent. It's hard to beat KBM. It's hard to beat Venerini. It's hard to beat those teams that do it each week and have all the backing from Toyota, Chevy. It doesn't matter, It's hard to beat all of them versus short track stuff. You can spend, let's just say you have a $200,000 budget. Yeah. Whether or not that's true or false. Doesn't take you far in ARCA, because ARCA, you rent races for really, really expensive versus in short track stuff. You can have a really good season off that money. So it depends how you want to spend it. If low budget, you can probably run a lot more races and have a lot more fun, hang out with people running in local stuff versus doing 2 or 3 big season ARCA races.
In ARCA, do you think that there's like, especially coming from like a smaller team with maybe not big enough of budget to have like a solid backup car, is there a little bit more of like an incentive to maybe not race as hard because you have to like preserve the car and like?
I've always been the one that you get the best out of your equipment no matter what. Even if it means wrecking it a little bit, using the bumper up, having to put a bumper on it, something like that. The way I've always raced is if you can't afford to be out there, then it's not really meant to be. You go in the
Definitely.
weekend knowing, okay, I can spend this much and that's it, versus going out there and like, okay, if I wreck this thing, we can fix it. Now there's some decisions on the racetrack. It's like, okay, there's no point of doing it. You're racing for 6th place here. There's no point. So that does come in effect. So if you're racing for the window, it's everything. Anything's fair game.
Yeah.
For sure. And so if you got like an opportunity to run like kind of say a mid-tier ride in like trucks or like Xfinity, do you think at this point in your career you would take something like that?
Oh, 100%. That truck series is one of my favorite. Xfinity is probably my favorite series. Yeah. The cars are a blast to drive and it's a really competitive series. Same with trucks. So I would 100% move forward and do something like that. It just has to be the correct deal, It's so hard nowadays finding the sponsorship to be able to afford it, to move forward with running trucks or Xfinity. So just running more local stuff it fits my lifestyle better right now. And I'm not saying trucks or Xfinity is out of the question completely. You just have to work harder for it.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think so that when that deal that, the last time you were in Xfinity was with Sam Hunt, 2020, you ran those 2 races. Was that like a deal where you were kind of searching for an Xfinity ride, or did they kind of come to you and ask you?
I've known Sam since he ran ARCA with Colin Garrett and then whoever, like back before he became Xfinity team. Yeah. And I've always talked to him. We became really good friends. So it's not really it wasn't a matter of I was looking for rides or it just kind of worked out. He needed a driver and he knew I was always, I was good with running. I could probably find the sponsorship and run it. So it just kind of happened. He called up, I called up, and that's just how it worked. So I still talk to Sam now, and we're trying. Each year when he sits down for the schedule, he's like, "Hey, I have these races. Which ones do you want to do? Which ones can you do?" And this year with Car Store running 15 races, and me running Triple Crown, which right now we're tied for the lead for Triple Crown points, and just run all these local events. It just didn't work out for a weekend to get off to go do it. So hopefully next year we will, maybe do a couple or try to, depending on what he has going on.
Yeah, we'll see what he has up going on. I'm hoping he runs that second car a little more too. Maybe that'll add a little more races for you to hop in.
End of the day, Sam needs to do whatever he needs to do to be profitable and not be too stressed out about it. So Sam's a good guy and he makes all the correct decisions. So if it works out, it works out.
Yeah. For sure. And it must have been like kind of the last thing on 2020. I don't know if we noted too much on it earlier, but the no practice thing at all. Like in 2020, that was the year where you just showed up to the track and you just got right to it. And so how challenging is that for you as a driver? Because I know usually around short tracks, like from time to time, I guess there's weekends where you don't get a ton of practice. There's weekends where you can get a lot of practice. But for you just showing up at the track, you did have a little experience a few years before that, but just as a driver in general, how challenging is that, especially stepping in with the team you hadn't driven for before?
Yeah. The main thing is that when those cars go to the racetrack, they come off pull down rigs. They come down all the different ways of getting data information. So you kind of already know going into it that you might need to take it off the track, put some packer in and take it off the cross member. But the cars are set up to the correct heights and all the above. So you have pretty good confidence in the cars versus local stuff. You just kind of put stuff on the cars and show up at the racetrack. You might put on some kind of pull down rig, but we don't have the correct resources or tools or funding to be able to do what those guys do. It was a little difficult, challenging at Martinsville, more Phoenix than Martinsville, because I have a lot of laps around Martinsville. I run the late model stock race each year, that truck race we had there. So Martinsville wasn't that difficult. I didn't have to fight the racetrack. It was more just figuring out what the car needed. Versus Phoenix, it was, okay, I don't know this racetrack. I don't know this car. I don't really know this team that well.
Yeah.
So it was more of a, okay, we got to figure everything out versus just like, okay, let me just figure out the car here, you know?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of factors go in that. So we'll be back here with more to wrap it up here on Off the Record. And welcome back here on Off the Record. Going to wrap it up with the final segment here. Again, thanks for Mason for joining us. And I want to note on the thing that you did back in April. So I believe in April, that was your first dirt start that you had made. Kind of explain, first of all, what the kind of car that you drove, what was the track that you drove on, and how was the experience like?
Yeah, I think it was back in the first weekend in April when I first hopped in a dirt car. We tested it back in like January, February, somewhere in March, early in the season, and I actually ended up blowing the motor up. So we had to go back and second time and try it again, and went there. I think we went to Potomac, I believe. No, Jenner's. I forget exactly where we went to, but my good buddy who when I first started racing, Trevor Collins, he races dirt now. He took the dirt route. I took the asphalt route. So he's been dying for me to get in dirt cars ever since he went dirt racing. So he finally made it happen. He's been setting up for me, taking care of it. So we went there. I finished third my first start. It was great. It was more of an asphalt first racetrack versus dirt at the time. It really rubbered up, so it suited me pretty well. But it's fun. Dirt racing's fun. I raced a couple more. I think I've raced about 6 races this year in dirt. I've also tested a micro over at Millbridge this year one time. So just trying to do what everyone else is doing. Everyone's going to run dirt now. You have to run every single kind of form of racing nowadays to be really, really good. So just trying to improve myself and driving different things and teaching myself what to do and put myself in aspects where I might be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or do you think that there's more in your future that you're gonna get really into?
Yeah,
Do you have
no,
like a
100%.
bucket list?
Yeah, 100%. This year I was trying to, but Car Store has me slammed and we don't have any off weekends running what we need to right now. So I'm hoping next year I'll be able to, do around 10 to 12 dirt races, if not more. Whether or not that's micros, 604 late models, which I've been running now. So trying to figure it out, but it seems like every weekend right now we're busy with a NASCAR race or a Car Store race. This month we have this race now, and we race Martinsville next month and 2 Car Store races. So it's only leaves 1 weekend off, so I could possibly go run dirt if it fits in my buddy's schedule. So just trying to figure it out. But I mean, we only have 3 months left of racing really till December, and I think we race about every weekend. So the season doesn't slow down anymore. So it's a long year.
On the dirt side, kind of last thing on there, like how long do you think it took you to get comfortable where you feel like you could find, because I know racing on short tracks, it's a lot of the time it's about finding a rhythm and just getting comfortable on the racetrack, filling your car out. And so like on the dirt, like how long do you feel like it took you to feel comfortable and kind of feel a rhythm?
We went and tested once, but it really wasn't terrible. Like I kind of took to it pretty well, I think. My first time I raced, we went there to the racetrack. They had a morning practice, like the little test thing. It was like from 10 to 3. And I ran probably about 15, 20 laps, and we went racing. In the first practice session, I was fastest. So out of like 25 cars. So the way I put it is I have speed. I just need to learn how to race dirt. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to go out there and have speed and be fast and qualify well, but I need to learn how to race dirt. Like my very first heat race ever, I started with pole. So it's like, well, how do you restart? How do you do this? You have to relearn racing in general. It's a different way of driving completely. So that's the main struggle right now with me, is just figuring out, okay, I can be fast by myself, but around other cars, how do I come fast? And that's just a learning curve that we can figure out.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So we'll kind of transition ourselves to this upcoming week. So obviously the next 2 days we go to North Wilkesboro. Noted on it earlier, but I know a lot of people are excited to get to the racetrack. I'm excited to watch it. I know a lot of people are excited to be there. What's the biggest thing you're looking forward to, as far as I know the atmosphere is going to be pretty great. I know the Car Store, the drivers and the teams are going to put on a great show. What are you looking forward to most? I'm
really looking forward to just getting to the racetrack. We've all talked about it now. Really just want to get there and figure out this place. There's a big question in everyone's mind, is how's this place drive? Or will it be good, this and that? So we'll find out tomorrow who's prepared the best and who has the best notebook for it. So we'll show up tomorrow. I'm looking just forward to get on the racetrack. So there's no more talk about it. It's happening. So I'm looking forward to just getting there, getting the practice away, qualifying, and going home and sleeping on it to figure out, okay, tomorrow, what's our strategy? Because we already know what we qualify, where we start. So it's kind of sleep on what the strategy is going to be, So we do get 6 tires for the event. So we can't get, we will have 2 pit stops. We cannot fuel the car at the same time, and we can't put tires on. Like fuel and tires can't happen at the same time. So we have to pit twice for it. So it's like, how do we do this race? What's the strategy? Think about it and just make it happen. Hopefully be the one riding the elevator up in the night.
I hope so. Yeah, that's a cool tradition. I've been kind of learning more about, I guess, as they've come back to the racetrack. So I noticed there's a lot of cars entered this weekend. There's some NASCAR.
There's 30 late models.
Yeah,
30 late models, and then 55 limiteds, and I think around 45 street stocks or so, I think. So pits are going to be packed.
Do you get excited for that? More cars kind of entering on the entry list, or
well, from the beginning, we knew that 30 cars is going to be for us. We knew that from the beginning, but I think about it's going to be good racing, but it's going to be a lot of cars. It could be a really, really long night. I don't know when we race on the schedule. If we race last, it might be a really long night. Sitting there watching street stocks and everyone. So hopefully it's a smooth day for all the divisions, not just us. So hopefully it's a smooth day. It's gonna be chaotic in the pits. It's whenever you have a lot of cars in pits, nothing really flows really great. So going out to practice might take a little longer. There's cars everywhere in the pits. It's a big weekend. It's a big couple days. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it even sounded like when you mentioned practice and qualifying earlier, it sounded like a little bit of a crunch where it's only a few hours and then you qualify. So I feel like now it's going to be kind of a little bit of a mess, but
like Wednesday we show up and we just go racing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more like, I kind of wish we qualified on Wednesday, just so we can at least have a night saying, okay, we missed this completely. How do we fix it? Yeah. But now it's like, we only have a couple hours to see if we're good or not. And we don't really have that much time to get ready. Or if we miss this up completely, be like, okay, well, this is what we have to qualify with. And this is it. But, kind of wish that we did have Tuesday night to think about it and then qualify. But it is what it is. Everyone at the same boat. So hopefully we unload pretty good.
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the biggest questions surrounding like this North Wilkesboro racetrack revival return can it stick around, right? Like we've had a great month of racing. I think the fan turnout's been pretty good. Obviously, then they're going to have the dirt next month, and then we're going to totally redo the racetrack. Do you think that, North Wilkesboro coming back, you think this can be a permanent thing for the future?
I think it's more of a big race kind of thing. I think it's more of hopefully get the truck series there. Hopefully they do big events. I don't think that they did weekly racing that it would really last. Just because weekly racing is really, really hard. There's not that many cars to spool around with. I mean, think about it. Martinsville, you get 80 cars every year for late model stocks. So if you have right now, I think there's 9 tracks in NC and 5 in Virginia. What's 80 divided by 13? Not that many cars per track. So I think if they were to stick to big races and have this, like the big late model stock event, big street stock event, exactly what they're doing once, maybe twice a year, I think it will last. But if they went weekly show racing, it wouldn't work. So they need to figure out a way to get trucks there, to get maybe Xfinity Cup probably won't go there, but they need to figure out how to do big events and get them in.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think I think the same way too. I think that's the only way they could do it. Just keep doing big events, because weekly, like you noted, is hard for a racetrack to do. So we'll see how it all kind of pans out. And for you, for the rest of the year, I noticed, I know you keep mentioning the car store. They got you on a busy schedule this year. Is there anything else like other, for the rest of 2022? You got dirt races planned, NASCAR, ARCA. Is there anything you're looking at?
Possibly might be doing Bristol and ARCA. I enjoy Bristol, but main thing is Martinsville for us for late model stocks, tied for Triple Crown points. That's the final race for Triple Crown. So hopefully we can come out there with a strong finish and win Triple Crown for my first year doing it. Hopefully we can do that. That's the next main big one for us. Other than, we have Tri-County before that, but that's the next major event is going to Martinsville. That's where everyone shows up best of the best. And we're going to have probably 80 cars going for, I think they start 42. So got to make the show. That's to be the next big thing. And then closing out the season, December. It's always
jam-packed schedule for sure. So I know these next few days I'll be watching Wilkesboro, or I'll be trying to figure out how I'm going to watch Wilkesboro. I think it's just like on Flow Racing or something like that, right?
I think
It'll
it's
be on
streamed on.
or
I think Race America's doing it,
Race America
and someone else is streaming it, but it's not on Flow. I think it's Race in America for
Pit Road
Wilkesboro.
TV is who do it. Pit Road TV. I should know that
That's-
because I do the graphics and I have to put them on there, so I should probably know that. So yeah, it should be on like Pit Row, or for those who are in Racing America as well, where this show will go on too. So I know we'll all be watching at Wilkesboro. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun weekend for the Cars Tour. Thank you, Mason, for joining us on the show, and we'll see you all next week.